We could be filthy rich right now had we chosen a different business model, but we chose to be grape growers, to be winemaker. Everything we sell, we make it on site. We don't buy bulk product. We know we can trace the product from the vineyard, from the barrel, to the bottle, to the customers, so we can tell the story. We don't have to fake the story.
Welcome to Critical Thinking Required, hosted by LBW. This podcast is intended for free thinkers, entrepreneurs, and knowledge seekers. Join us as we discuss relevant financial topics, explore with guests their financial journeys, and engage with experts in industries such as space, media and entertainment, real estate, and many more. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Welcome to Critical Thinking Required. We're missing Tim today. It's Nathaniel and I. We've got some special guests. By the way, happy National Wine Day. And because of that, we are here on location at Wollersheim, sitting with the Coquard family, who started this business and leads this team generations ago. And today we're going to be continuing talking about multi-generational businesses.
So before we begin today's podcast, I just want to read through a quick bio of Wollersheim, where we are filming today. As one of America's oldest wine estates, Wollersheim sits on a scenic hillside overlooking the Wisconsin River and is a National Historic Site dating back to the 1840s. Established as Wollersheim Winery in 1972, today the vineyards are comprised of 30 acres from which the winery produces 7 different estate wines, along with many others under the direction of 13th generation winemaker Philippe Coquard and his wife Julie, Bob and Johann Wollersheim's eldest daughter. The family expanded in 1990 with the addition of Cedar Creek Winery in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, and in 2010 began distilling all Wisconsin brandy and expanded into opening a full distillery in 2015 and most recently opened a bistro on site. The family-run business not only includes Philippe and Julie, but their son Roman, who is the bistro chef, son-in-law Tom as distiller, and daughter Céline as the enologist.
So, Philippe, Céline, thank you very much for joining us today. We're really excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. Also, before we start, we just want to remind our viewers, thank you for viewing. Feel free, if you enjoy this podcast, this episode, please follow us. You can share, subscribe to our multiple channels, which you can be found on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, among others. Okay, to kick it off, why don't we actually start? Nathaniel, if you want to start maybe some questions, and we'll pick up from there.
Right, so I'll just start from the real beginning. Tell us a little bit about Wollersheim's story.
Hi. So actually it started up there in 1847. In a cave. 1847, and we won't get too lengthy on that. But 1847, Augustin Razzi from Hungary settled here in Sauk Prairie, founded Sauk City, grew grapes up on the hill. The grapes that he had with him were from Europe. They froze. 1849, 1850, he went on to California to catch the end of the gold rush. He sold the property to his right-hand man, Peter Kerr from Germany. Grape growers, they built a house, they built a winery. That was 1858, 1865-ish. It was a commercial winery. They grew grape on those slopes. They sold wine as far as the state of Maine. They had a still. They made brandy around 1876. Prohibition basically closed the wine business down completely, and it remained in the same family for 4 generations until 1972, when my in-laws, Bob and Johann Wollersheim, native of Fond du Lac, saw that this historic winery could be for sale, might be for sale. And my father-in-law, being an electrical engineer at UW-Madison, teaching electrical engineering, working for Space Science Center, avid home winemaker. He had a little garage business in his basement, selling home winemaking supply, and wanting to take it to the next step, convinced the Kale family to sell the business. My father-in-law and mother-in-law had no money. They had a house. That's all they had as collateral. They went to the local bank of Prairie du Sac, with whom we still bank. We've never looked at any other banking. And they put a business plan together, bought the property in 1972, restarted the grape growing business, replanted the vineyard, made wine in the old basement, in the cellar that we still use today. My father-in-law continued to teach electrical engineering for a few years to have insurance and additional income. My mother-in-law gave the tours, the tastings, welcome customers. Everything was based on agro business, farming grapes, making wine, welcoming tourists, giving tours, giving tastings, and the business grew from that until today. So that's, in a nutshell, that's the beginning of Wollersheim Winery.
So the vines that we're looking at here, so are those the vines that were replanted 50 years ago?
Well, some of them. There's only one vineyard left that is 50 years old next year. So next year we are celebrating our 50th anniversary, which will be a big deal. So there's only one vineyard left. All the other vineyards have been replanted, but basically with the same grapes. A lot of the grapes that my father-in-law experimented with in 1972, we still grow a lot of them, same kinds.
Very interesting. So that is one story, one piece to the story. It's the as you say, the Wollersheim story. But there's the other piece, which is that this is a family business. So can you guys speak to how has this evolved as a family business? Because we both know that this is your trade, this is your occupation, but then there's also that other hat that is running a business. So can you guys speak to how that other hat of running a business and then running a family business, how has that worked? What have you learned anything? Have you learned what not to do? Any kind of information on that would be great.
Let me start, and I will let Céline speak of it. It's to be honest, it's evolving all the time. Never assume that you have the perfect recipe and it's going to be clear sailing. So when I came on board in 1984, we had no money. Julian and I didn't know if we could make a go at it because money was just scarce. There was so little money that, income, wanting to start a family, if we could make it. I mean, the expression, we didn't have a pot to pee in, that was us. So, we even, like 1987, we contemplated bankruptcy. It was that close. 1988, I stopped at a friend's restaurant, Pepino Gargano, Madison establishment, and he gave me a bottle of wine that was basically a sledgehammer in the face. It was just like, wow, this is what we need to make to rejuvenate the business, and so on. And it was in September. Céline was 3 months old, so we started. It was during fermentation, and right away, talked to my dad. How do we stop fermentation? How do we how can I make that wine? And it happened in September 1988. I created Prairie Fumée, and spring of 1989 we released it to the market. And back then we didn't have marketing firm. We had a yellow tablet. We wrote name Prairie. We wrote Fumée. We wrote other names, and Prairie Fumée stuck to what we wanted to do. The first year in 1989 that it was released, it got 4 gold medals. It was a big hit. Dallas Morning News, Chicago Tribune, Minneapolis Gazette or Minneapolis newspaper wrote articles about it, and it was the switch. The switch went on. So if every business could come up with a product like this to kick business on, it generated cash flow. We ran out of Prairie Fumée. It brought enthusiasm. It brought positive feeling, encouragement. We did something right. It's selling. It's going. And we've kept that attitude until now, and for many more years to come. So Prairie Fumée generated cash flow. The business grew. And then there was the family question, So I'm the winemaker. My wife is still at UW. She's joined the family business, marketing. Céline was born. We had a little playpen in the corner of the offices. My father-in-law, extremely intelligent, genius man, running the business from his brain. And so there was some tension, different approach. I'm more a practical pusher. He's more a thinker. And there was a happy medium. You have to find, and I think, I see this with my kids. Sometimes there's some tension or an argument. And, it's love prevail. And that's what you have to stick to. If love is hurt, it's not going to go. And so we went through some tension of, I'm a hot-blooded French guy, and it explodes, but it lasts 30 seconds, So with my father-in-law, we had some argument about, business conduct and business attitude, and doing this, not doing that. And, things calm down. You think it through. You talk about it a different way. I think we should try this. I think we should try that. And he gave me a lot of freedom of experimenting. And I feel fortunate to have had those chances that now, at my age of 59 years old in November, I'm letting Céline on the wine side, like, if you think it's the right approach, let's try it. Let's go with it. I'm not going to be here forever. She will be here longer than me. So it's just like, why should I always keep pushing my idea? My ideas of 30 years ago have worked. Well, I'll give the chance to somebody else. Same with my son-in-law at the distillery. I was lucky to start the brandy business, get the distillery going. Now he runs it. It's his show.
Philippe, I'd like to too. We're definitely, we want to talk about what some of those tensions can look like and how those get worked through at some point here too. And also, there's a transition which we'll get to too about the business itself transitioning. And then, of course, you're also speaking about the transition of roles and empowerment, which is very difficult for a lot of business owners to do, but critical if indeed you're looking to create an enterprise, right, that's lasting. I'm curious, though, too, so Prairie Fumée has almost got to feel like a sibling to you, Céline, right? Like, yeah. You're the same age. And so I'm curious on both of you. So you've got to be experiencing a lot of this now. Philippe, you've definitely experienced this. before that wine made a success, you probably felt, I'm guessing, like 100% winemaker that happens to have this business that may or may not go. And then when that moment hit, you now are a bona fide business owner and yet still a winemaker. That's a very difficult business, very difficult role within a business for people to manage. We see it in all different industries. Can you both talk a little bit about how this transition is currently feeling, how it felt, on being able to juggle? Nathaniel kind of hit this in the beginning of his evolution question. How do you juggle being winemakers and running these operations?
Winemaker is first for me. My partner in business is my wife, Julie. And Julie is more the business, financial side of things. And it's a great complement that we have. And I cannot be the brain and the doer at the same time, So my responsibility is to ensure that we have a high standard of quality, which has put us where we are. I call it our core value is quality first, quality always, don't cut corners, premium ingredients, and that's kind of how we operate as a business. But credit to be given to my other half, Julie, in the business aspect of things. Yes, we can spend. No, it doesn't make any sense to invest there, and so on. So as the president of the corporation, I have to take all those pieces and sometimes slow down. Sometimes it's time to push right now. You go with your feeling. The market is ready for this. Crap, we missed the boat. We are a year too late on some product. But it's this juggling all the time, So it's, we are not running after money. Running after money would have been detrimental to our family business. We could be filthy rich right now had we chosen a different business model, but we chose to be grape growers, to be winemaker. Everything we sell, we make it on site. We don't buy bulk product. We know we can trace the product from the vineyard, from the barrel, to the bottle, to the customers, so we can tell the story. We don't have to fake the story.
Fair to say that you have focused on the experience and profits have followed that. Céline, what does this mean for your roles? As your dad is passing a lot of this baton to you, can you talk about what your role looks like here, and how do you foresee that changing now?
Yeah, so I feel the same way that Papa does. My primary responsibility is wine and wine quality. And there's just a few of us on the winemaking team for all of the wine that we make. It's me, Papa, Vic, and our assistant winemaker, and Anthony, who manages all of our production, and then 2 guys in the cellar in the vineyard that help us out. And so we were always focusing on the wine first, and on the vineyard too. And that's one of the parts that, Papa has a lot of time in the vineyard from his childhood, and I do too, but not quite as much there. And so that's one part that worries me, because I know I already don't have enough time to be out in the vineyard with everybody and do other things and still have that deep connection to the soil that we kind of grew up with as a family. I think for us too, as a family, Papa's 13th generation from all of his family in France. I'm 14th generation winemaker, and that's what we talk about. That's all we talk about. That's our life. That's what we eat. That's what we drink. So it's a very natural feeling to get involved in all of those pieces. So when I went to school, you know, talking about it, first I thought I wanted to be in medicine. And then I got to UW-Madison and sat down to choose my classes. And like, I don't know what I want to do anymore. I kind of panicked when I had to choose. And I started flipping through the book and I landed in horticulture. And I go, oh my gosh, I love the vineyard so much. This is where I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be in horticulture. And as I, you know, progressed through that, I realized I loved the science of tasting and winemaking and all that came with that. So I just kind of naturally transitioned without knowing what I wanted to do or if I wanted to be a part of the business the day I set foot in college. And so it was just a natural evolution, but because it's so much a part of our family without being pushed, I guess, I just fell into it.
Do you feel, Céline, that there's pressure, like internally? I don't sense, in knowing you for the last number of years too, that there's pressure from, you know, Papa or anybody else, but internally, like being Generation 14, is that pressure? And what does that mean for your kids?
To me, it's not so much Generation 14. I guess, to me, it's the place. There's a long history here. We're very tied to the soil here. And I guess I feel more pressure just in keeping the history of this place and the story of the families going. My kids, like when I was little, so I have two younger brothers, one of whom is the chef here. We used to tell my parents to not talk about work at supper. We went through a phase where we're like, guys, stop. We don't want to hear it. You know, we were like 8, 10, and they did a really good job of toning that down or cutting that out, because when you in your family business, you go home and you talk about all the terrible things from your day, you know, because you're not going to talk about it at work because you're stuck in it together. So they used to talk about it at home, and I think the important part for us was to not hear the stress that was happening at work. So Tom and I too try not to do that at home, just so that our kids see, you know, the beauty, the happiness, the philosophy that we have with the winemaking and the spirits, and, you know, working with the farmers and working with our growers and working with the land versus, oh my gosh, I have to get this thing done, I have to get this thing done, I have to call these 6 people. That is not going to make them want to join us at all.
I'd like to shine on that. And we got some of that advice when we joined the family business center at the Fluno Center on UW campus. And that was one of the topic, how to bring in the next generation in. And, you know, as husband and wife working at the same place, when we talk about business, it's not because it's good. It's because somebody pissed me off. It's because look at this, look at that, what happened. And then the tension flares, and the kids are witnessing that. And that's not good, because why would the kids want to come to work at a place where there is tension and argument? And that was like, it was a new way of thinking. Julie and I go to lunch every day together, so we can talk shop at lunch and not at home at night. It does happen sometime, but we talk business at lunch. We try to not talk business at home, just to leave the job here. And when it comes to the kids, we felt that if we were to ask, hey, can you go study winemaking and come and join the family business, it wasn't going to work. So we felt that, it was their decision. You know, so at first Céline didn't want to be part of it. And then she entered horticulture and then on her own winemaking with Cornell, and I was like, wow, this is great. I can see retirement.
I think too, as part of a family business, yeah, we have a lot of different facets here. We have food, we have wine, we have the spirits, we have sales, there's marketing. There's so many different options here that I think in a family business, when you do have those options, to not look at it as, you know, my dad makes wine, that's what I have to do. To look at it and kind of open up and see, I could do this because I'm more interested in marketing, or I'm more interested in sales and talking with people. I am not. I like being, you know, in the cellar by myself. But it's, yeah, I think it's a good point to be able to look and see all those different opportunities within a family too.
So you guys, this has been very interesting in the sense that it's great how you didn't push Céline and your other two boys to this. And not talking shop, I think, is very important, especially in the period of COVID. I think that a lot more people are cognizant of how work and personal can mix and how important it is to establish boundaries. But at the same time, what about that crappy stuff that is a part of being a business owner? Like how do you discuss that with the future? Philippe, how did you discuss it with Céline? And Céline, how did you want to discuss it with your children if they decide to partake in the family business? Those bad things that do happen, like how to mitigate those risks, how to handle those situations as they arise.
Over the years, starting with little to nothing and where we are today, you look at in history the good time and the bad time, and a lot to do with the team that is around you. We didn't always have the right people at the right place. And now I think we are a lot more cognizant of that in hiring for the future. Let's make sure that it is for the future. Let's make sure that they have the right, it's the right profile. And not necessarily, they don't have to know it all. We need to share our family business value, our core value of quality of life, be kind to others, be nice, listen, all that stuff. So I think a lot to do is with the team you have surrounding yourself. Don't be afraid to. I'm a computer moron.
Me too.
But I surround myself with people that are more intelligent than me. I tell everybody that Céline is more intelligent than me, and I'm proud to say it because it's the future. I'm not afraid of knowing my limits. I'm not afraid of say I don't understand that stuff. It's not my forte. So just be honest with yourself and let other people shine in your world to help you grow.
I think too with our staff, the way we build up staff is we make them a part of our family. They feel like family. There's the part of business ownership that makes you feel responsible for their livelihoods, but there's also that part of just the emotional family feeling, which makes some days harder than others amongst all of us. But I think that has created a tighter bond for us too.
Yeah, that's a great place to explore more. Especially coming from your perspective, Céline, you grew up with a lot of the staff. Like, they've got to feel more like family. Mm-hmm. And then you also have other family members that we've only touched on, right? There are siblings, right? Mm-hmm. Other children, of which, right, one son is overseas and one is here. And so they've got different roles. And I think it would be important to talk about what those roles could look like. But I think the best place to maybe start is probably with communication, right? Communication is very key. Mm-hmm. We had a podcast guest who's been a friend for a long time, Diane Cedar, who used to operate as chairman an organization right down the road called Milwaukee Valve. Diane said, and she said in multiple cases, that what is good for the business is good for the family, and what is good for the family is good for the business. And it really is that simple, but it's also not, right? So can we talk a little bit about how a transition to the next generation? Are we talking about having family meetings that are fairly routine or not? What gets discussed there? How does that get relayed back to staff? What does that entire arena look like?
Nothing easy. Nothing easy. We went through that, and there was some tough moments where it opened our eyes that, wow, we didn't know you felt that way. We didn't know you were interested by this. So, it just, I am one that let's not assume, let's ask the question. I'm tired of assumption. We have to talk about this. We already have started to involve the kids, Céline and Tom, and Roman, in the finance overlook of the business. Where it is, where it's going. Because you want to know where it's going. You want to know that it's sound and safe. You don't want to tell the kids, hey kids, we are on a slippery slope. We cannot pay the loan. Mom and I are going to retire.
Here you go.
There you go. It's up to you. No, it doesn't work that way. And so if there are some financial concern, they should know that right now. And we are in a good place. We pay the loan all the time. We're staying with it. It's profitable business. So there is a bright future. And but the future is only brighter if we put them in place. And right now that's the part we haven't really, who is going to lead the corporation? What is the other siblings' role? Nicholas, the youngest, is in the Catholic order right now. Will he stay there? Will he come back to the family business? Unlikely, but you never know. Is there room? Yeah, now there is room, but 20 years, we don't know. So there is a lot to be done yet. We are just, it took us 10 years from my in-laws to Julie and I, and now we need to start that process with Céline, Tom, and Roman, who are presently with us in the business.
As this transition is happening now, even, will you be able to fully step back? Like, what does that retirement look like? Can you say, I'm just going to sit up in the cave and just have a glass of wine and that's it?
It's funny because everybody says, "Well, you're never going to quit. You're not a type that will quit." Quitting the responsibility is what I want.
It's easy.
Yeah,
that part's easy.
That part is easy. But I always want to be available to help Céline or Tom where they need me, or Roman where they need me. So yes, I am ready because I have done it since age 21. Fresh out of school, I jumped in it and I worked my butt off. And so yeah, I'd like to have more time. I ride motorcycle, I collect Indian artifacts. I am a big bow hunter right up here. I have 2 grandkids. I have a great wife that can put up with me. And she is, we've been married 35 years next week, or in 2 weeks. So it's just like, well, we work so hard that we don't want to take off and abandon this, but I taste wine with Céline every day, 361 days a year,
We're together for the other holidays.
Yeah.
So we can
so we taste wine all the time. We talk wine. So she has that understanding, and I have no concern right there, So what I see is the business has gotten a lot bigger. And that's the part, like, who is going to do what, So I can give up the leadership, the thinking, the planning, between Céline and Tom, they will have that. I'm not ready right now to say, oh, Tom, run with it, Céline, run with it. It's going to be more than just one person.
And I feel the same way. Tom and I theorize on that part a lot. Like, how would we replace Papa? Who will fill that role? Who will replace Mom's role? Because they're both doing jobs for 4 people. and it's not sustainable. You know, if we grow, whether it's, you know, the volume or financially, it won't be sustainable for us either. So we already talk about what would that look like? Where are there holes that we know we don't have those strengths for? Who would we need to fill those holes when they're gone?
Céline, do you think about now at this stage, what happens if your kids aren't interested? What happens if your brothers don't have children that are interested? Does that come into your mind at all at this point? And if so, like, what does that look like? It'd be good to talk about maybe some of the mechanisms now that are maybe just starting to be talked about on how, who gets what, how does equity work, how does pay work, how, like not the numbers itself, but the theories behind it, and what happens at some place. Does the trail end? And if the trail ends, is that going to be difficult emotionally for you guys to sell to somebody else?
Absolutely. I haven't thought about it. My kids are 5 and 8. The 5-year-old says she's going to work with mama so she can be with me and make wine with me. I know. We'll see how she feels when she's a teenager.
Yeah. We've been there.
And, you know, and August, who's 8, thinks he's going to work with dad because it's really cool to climb around the barrels. But no, I don't want to even really think about that part yet, so that it gives them an unbiased chance to say, yes, I want to do that, or no, I don't.
There's few things that the four of us, being Céline, Tom, Julie, and I, there are few people that we need to bring up to the next level of management, more responsibility, sharing the wealth, you know, more higher income level that are critical for the future of the business. And we need to secure that within the next 2 years, that we cannot afford to lose those team members that will help a transition from Julie and I to Tom and Céline.
And you might have some things to add on this too, Nathaniel, but digging a little bit into the mechanisms, the functionality a bit, there's a lot of value in this property, in this business. There are also liabilities, there are loans, right? We've talked about this before. Can you talk a little bit about some of the mechanisms in place so that if something happens to you, Philippe, how does that liability still get handled? What have you explored as far as transition? If Nicholas stays in the Catholic order, obviously you want him to be compensated for the generations of hard work, yet he's also not here day to day. You know, Céline lives on the property. People could knock on her door. Like there's a different exposure. So how does that get looked at fairly, and so that the relationship of your generation, Céline, doesn't get hindered by stuff that is less important than family, right? How do you do that? What things are in place to make that happen?
So, because of the connection at the Family Business Center, we ran into some nice people that have become friends over the years and that have helped us, or helped my in-laws, the transfer of ownership. And so the system was that my in-laws gifted 10% of the business share to the 4 kids, Julie, Steve, Eva, and me being the 4th kid because of what I have done on this business. And it was designed that in the later years, Julie and I would purchase the 60% remaining, 30% from my father-in-law, 30% from my mother-in-law. So Julie and I would own 60% of the business, or actually 80% because Julie and I already had each 10. And as of a few years ago, Julie and I bought my brother-in-law's shares and my sister-in-law's shares of the business.
Took a while.
They were compensated very generously because it had gained a lot between then and now. So Julie and I own 100% of the business, and now it's time to start the same process for Céline, Tom, Nicolas, and Roman. So it's not in place yet, but it's talked about it once a week.
Well, Philippe, that's really just fantastic to hear that you guys are talking about this on a weekly basis. I can't tell you the number of times how we've heard, when we've spoken to some people and asked them about their succession, they look at us with these faces of, huh?
They avoid it.
They avoid it because it can be incredibly complicated and very emotional to talk about this with family or people that have been with you for years that you're then thinking about selling a piece of your business to. And I think it's just fantastic. So kudos to you all on that.
I think too, so I remember the transition from a teenager's point of view when, I was going from my grandparents to my parents, and, I saw some of the stress around that, but they also brought us to the Family Business Center events, Roman and I, as teenagers, even though we're like, oh, come on, we got to get out of school for this one and, miss like college classes early in the morning. But I think it was really helpful then to start have that opportunity to ask my parents, like, what does this mean? What is going on here? Why would you do that? And have that background and now as we're going into this phase too, to not feel like it's, just out of nowhere, I guess.
Céline, first of all, I think you should have got credit in high school and college for going to those things, because in all reality, the education there, which isn't really found in a lot of academic situations, we always preach on how we wish that was different. That was probably a heck of an education. A lot of times teenagers, it's get kind of wasted on them, but glad it happened. We just like to take a minute and go around the table, leaving just some final thoughts. And Nathaniel and I will start.
Thank you, Dan. Really, I don't have much. I mean, this has just been an enlightening conversation just to hear about the beginnings of Wollersheim and then how you have succeeded from your in-laws and now in the process of talking about succeeding to Céline, Tom, whomever it may be. To hear about that story, I think you just don't hear about it a lot. And to hear how you guys are approaching it, I think that you should be commended for it. Because, again, I can tell you, it doesn't happen a lot.
We see it a lot. It doesn't happen a lot.
It does not happen a lot. And to your point, Céline, about talking about it in gradual stages and not just having it come out of nowhere, I think that, unfortunately, that is the norm. So kudos to you both for how you guys are handling this. I hope that that's the takeaway that most people take from this.
There's a lot of what was said in this conversation that we can relate to from a business standpoint, from our own personal experiences. The one thing that stuck in my mind that we didn't really talk a lot about is a comment, Philippe, that you made about surrounding yourself with people that are, at least in your perception, more intelligent in different areas where you feel weak, and really delegating that out. We said right from the get-go when we found our firm years ago now, that if 20, 30 years pass by, and hopefully the firm is still in existence then, that if the three of us were still involved, Nathaniel, Tim, and myself, if we weren't the three dumbest people sitting around the table, we had made a grave mistake. And in all reality, I just want to commend you as well on recognizing that you don't have to have all the tools. You just have to have the awareness to know what you are good at, what you enjoy, which makes you good at it, and then help find the right people that you can trust to fit in to make that delegation system really function. So fantastic that you said that. It is okay not to have all the answers, and I'm just glad that you have that in place, and just wanted to really highlight that so it gets shared more.
Oh, thank you. And it just it's being humble. It's just like, you're not the smartest one around, you're not the greatest, there's so much more to be done, and to me it's people ask, wow, look what you have done. It's never done. It's never finished. It's never done. There's always more being quality, more being sharing the wealth, more passing it on to the kids. One thing that, having lived through a transition, from a different culture. I think, you know, what I said, love prevailed. To me, that's what it's about. Because if you have the wrong feeling with the people that are surrounding you, being team member or being family member, you won't make it a long time. So I think you have to stick to this. Your core value, never lose sight of what are we in business for, quality, sharing the knowledge, passing it on to the customer, what you know, and money will come.
I think for us, family is first, and to have that extended to the staff and just be honest about what you are good at and what you're not, and the communication. Papa and I are both very much, if something upsets us, we let it out right away, and it's done in 30 seconds.
We don't have to talk. We can see it. You can see what's going on.
So yeah, as long as there's honesty and communication on all fronts, whether it's within the family or with our staff members, to make sure that they still feel like our family at the end of the day, then for us, I think that's how it works.
Well, thank you both for having us, Philippe, Céline. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you for having us at your lovely vineyard. Thankfully, it didn't rain today, even though it said it was supposed to. But we got lucky. So thank you for having us, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Critical Thinking Required.
Happy Wine Day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for taking the time to start your journey of thinking differently and listening to LBW talk about stuff they love. Until next time.